Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Far Cry New Dawn. Far Cry New Dawn is the sort of sequel to Far Cry 5, set many years after the shocking ending of last year's Far Cry game. Thermonuclear war has decimated the world, which I guess is technically a spoiler for Far Cry 5, but this game's entire existence is technically a spoiler for Far Cry 5. You travel to Hope County having successfully rebuilt several communities elsewhere in America, only for your train to be ambushed by a gang called the Highwaymen. You need to team up with the people of Prosperity and fight back against the Highwaymen and their twin leaders. It's quite difficult to know where to start with Far Cry New Dawn. It's basically Far Cry 5 again, with a couple of new ideas and new game mechanics that, while noticeably different, don't really do a whole lot to actually make this game feel substantially changed from last year. Dropping into New Dawn, which plays out on the same map as Far Cry 5, albeit smaller and slightly changed by a nuclear apocalypse, will give you a sense of deja vu if you've played the fifth game. The gameplay loop is mostly unchanged, though your motivations for knocking over outposts and completing side activities has shifted towards rebuilding society as much as defending yourself from the new flavour of Big Bad. Hope County is now flooded with all sorts of resources you're going to want to collect to upgrade Prosperity, the hometown that serves as your main base of operations. The town has multiple different stations for cartography, expeditions, weapons, an infirmary, and more, and you're going to need to gather the resources necessary to upgrade them for maximum bonuses. It gives a neat bit of context to your actions in the world. Ethanol, the primary source for upgrading your town, is mostly found by taking over outposts, which you do as you would in any Far Cry game. Clear an outpost and you'll be rewarded with the ethanol to begin upgrading your hometown, which in turn allows you to craft better weapons, improve your guns for higher compatriots, and more. Once you've taken over an outpost, however, you have the option of scavenging it, abandoning it for more ethanol, and then taking it over again, with the caveat that you'll be facing tougher opponents than before. It's a fascinating system that helps offset the realization that New Dawn's world is smaller than your average Far Cry. There are 3 levels of difficulty for you to beat, each one coming with exponentially more rewards that you'll need to offset the exponentially increasing costs of upgrading Prosperity. It also does the best job of showcasing the new light RPG mechanics New Dawn has to offer. Enemies have levels, which denotes how difficult they are to take down. Your weapons also have these levels, which are balanced against enemy levels. Trying to kill a level 3 enemy with a level 1 weapon, for example, won't work very well, whereas a level 3 weapon will feel like it's doing the right amount of damage. It's a very strange system to find in a Far Cry game. The series has, after all, always been about freedom from restrictions. Yes, there are stealth mechanics and ideal ways of doing things for maximum rewards, but the open worlds have always given players the freedom to tackle anything in them in any way they see fit. That's not quite the case here. The further afield you go from Prosperity, which is located in the bottom corner of the map, the more difficult the enemies and animals you'll encounter are, acting as a sort of level gate between you and some of the content until you upgrade your weapons, health, AI partners, and more to be able to effectively tackle them. It can feel quite restrictive, and while it's a system that works well when you're scavenging and retaking outposts or taking on more difficult expeditions, more on those in a moment, it doesn't really work in New Dawn's favour as a Far Cry game. Although you can argue that it's perfectly fine for any game in a series to try new things, it strikes a really weird chord considering the rest of the game feels so familiar. New Dawn feels like it was built simply to be more Far Cry for people who want more Far Cry, but these light RPG mechanics are like roadblocks to the traditional Far Cry experience, and while there are certain sections of the game where this works quite well, it kind of mucks up the open world freedom you'd want from a Far Cry game. Aside from expeditions, which see you take on missions on specially designed maps outside of Hope County, there's nothing else really new here. The weapons are all your standard variety, which is disappointing, as early on it seems like the game might give you a more creative arsenal, only to immediately revert to what's come before. The story is very forgettable, and while it's cool to re-explore post-apocalyptic Hope County, the world and characters of Far Cry 5 weren't particularly memorable to begin with. You do basically get superpowers later in the game, but the concept isn't really pushed very far and almost feels like a tacked-on afterthought. It's kind of neat, but has very little impact on the game itself. Far Cry New Dawn is a very strange proposition. It's not quite an expansion pack thanks to a couple of new mechanics, but nor is it a straight-up sequel thanks to the lack of evolution between games. New Dawn feels like it's simply more Far Cry 5, but with different antagonists and some base building mechanics and light RPG elements. If you're itching for more of what you got with last year's Far Cry, then this budget entry will certainly scratch that itch, But if you feel like you got everything you needed from your last trip to Hope County, or you're just not really that interested in a new Far Cry right now, then it's probably just worth skipping this one and waiting for Far Cry 6. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please keep it here at Words About Games. We've got tons of content, including our weekly podcast, more impressions videos, patch notes, and our weekly indie game of the week. We also stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And most importantly, have a great day.